My son tried to sit at the main table. My sister sneered, "That section is for children with potential." The room snickered. I quietly took our coats and left. At 11:33 p.m. she texted, "Don't forget who owns your shop space." I sent the property management contract and waited. The Thanksgiving dinner had started like any other family gathering. My sister, Jessica, hosted at her sprawling suburban home, the kind with a circular driveway and professionally landscaped gardens. She'd insisted on assigned seating this year, complete with printed name cards in gold calligraphy. My son Marcus, 10 years old and eager to sit with his older cousins, naturally gravitated toward the main dining table, where Jessica's children and our brother's teenagers were settling in. He'd barely pulled out a chair when Jessica's hand landed on his shoulder. "Sweetheart, that section is for children with potential," she said, her voice loud enough to carry across both rooms. "You'll be more comfortable at the kids' table." The kids' table was set up in the kitchen alcove. Plastic plates, paper napkins, the spot reserved for the under sevens. Marcus looked at me, confusion clouding his face. He was in 5th grade on the honor roll and captain of his soccer team. The cousins at the main table ranged from 11 to 16. By any reasonable measure, he belonged there. "Mom," he whispered. Jessica's husband, Tom, chuckled from his position at the head of the table. "Come on, buddy. Let the high achievers have their space. Maybe next year when you apply yourself more." My mother, seated near the fireplace, adjusted her wine glass and said nothing. My brother David gave me an apologetic shrug but didn't intervene. His wife was already ushering their kids to their assigned seats, eager to avoid conflict. I stood up slowly, keeping my expression neutral. Years of family dynamics had taught me that showing emotion only gave them ammunition for later conversations, how I was too sensitive or couldn't take a joke. "Marcus, get your jacket," I said quietly. Jessica's eyes widened slightly. She hadn't expected this response. Usually I smiled through these moments, made excuses and tried to smooth things over for the sake of family unity. "You're leaving? Over seating arrangements." She laughed, but there was an edge to it. "God, you're so dramatic." I helped Marcus into his coat. He was trying not to cry, his jaw set in that way kids do when they're determined to be brave. It broke my heart, but I kept my face calm. "We'll get pizza on the way home," I told him softly. "Don't be ridiculous," my mother finally spoke up. "Sit down. You're making a scene." "We're just leaving quietly," I said, picking up my purse. "Enjoy your dinner." Jessica followed us to the door, her voice dropping to a hiss only I could hear. "You're going to punish your son with your pride?" He could have stayed at the kids' table. I didn't answer. I didn't explain that leaving was exactly the opposite of punishing him, that staying and accepting that treatment would have taught him to accept disrespect as normal. Marcus was quiet in the car. We did get pizza and I let him pick a movie when we got home. By bedtime he seemed better, but I knew the incident would stick with him. These things always did. At 11:33 p.m., my phone lit up with a text from Jessica. "Don't forget who owns your shop space. Lease renewal is coming up in January. Might be time to discuss terms. Family discount might not apply if you keep being difficult." I stared at the message for a long moment. Jessica had always believed she had leverage over me because of the shop. 3 years ago, when I'd been looking for a space to open my custom furniture business, she'd connected me with a property management company she claimed to have connections with. "Family helping family," she'd said. The unit was perfect. A corner spot in a busy commercial district with large windows, high ceilings, and enough space for my workshop in the back. The rent was reasonable. The lease terms were fair. I'd signed eagerly, grateful for her help. She'd held it over me ever since. Every family disagreement ended with some variation of the same threat. "Remember who helped you get that space. Don't bite the hand that feeds you." I could make one call and you'd be looking for a new location. I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out the folder I'd been keeping for exactly this moment. Then I took a photo of the first page and texted it to her. The property management contract, with my name listed as the owner. My phone rang within 30 seconds. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. And again. The text started coming rapid fire. "What is this? This is a fake document. Call me right now. I'm serious. Call me." I set the phone face down on the kitchen counter and made myself a cup of tea. By the time the kettle boiled, I had 14 missed calls. The truth was simple, though Jessica had never bothered to look into it. The property management company she'd connected me with was legitimate. They managed the building professionally. But the building itself, the actual property, had been purchased by an investment group 7 years ago. An investment group I was part of. I'd started investing in commercial real estate in my mid-20s, long before I opened the furniture shop. Small partnerships at first, pooling money with friends who worked in finance. We bought a struggling strip mall, renovated it, and filled the units with good tenants. The returns were solid. We reinvested and expanded. By the time I was 30, I had equity positions in 4 different commercial properties. The building that housed my shop was our 5th acquisition. When I'd been looking for a space and Jessica suggested this location, I already knew it well. I was the one who approved the renovation budget for the corner unit she thought she was helping me access. I'd never corrected her assumption. I let her think she had power. Let her make her little threats. It was easier than dealing with the family drama that would have come from revealing the truth. But threatening my son's sense of worth? Using her imagined leverage to punish me for protecting him? That crossed a line. My phone finally stopped ringing around midnight. The texts continued sporadically until 2 a.m., progressing from denial to anger to bargaining. You're lying. Where did you get money for real estate? Dad must have helped you. He never helped me. We can talk about this. Don't be rash. I responded to none of them. The next morning I arrived at my shop at 7, my usual time. I liked the quiet hours before opening, when I could work on custom pieces without interruption. I was sanding a cherrywood desk when my property manager called at 8:15. Good morning, Sarah. I got a very confused call from a woman named Jessica claiming to be your sister. She was asking about lease terms and seemed to think she had some authority over your tenancy. What did you tell her? That I couldn't discuss lease details with anyone except the tenant or the property owner. She asked to speak to the owner, so I told her you were both and that she could take it up with you directly. Perfect. Thank you, Tom. No problem. He sounded pretty upset though. Everything okay? Family stuff. Nothing that affects the business. Understood. Let me know if you need anything. Jessica showed up at the shop 20 minutes later. I saw her through the window, parked illegally in the loading zone, practically running to the door. I unlocked it before she could start pounding. Explain, she demanded, pushing past me into the showroom. Explain how you own this building. Investment group, I said simply, returning to my workbench. We bought it 7 years ago. With what money? You were barely scraping by back then. I saved well. Made smart investments. Had good partners. Her face flushed red, her hands clenched at her sides. You let me think I had helped you. You let me believe I'd done you this huge favor. You did help, I said calmly. You connected me with the property management company. They've been excellent. I appreciated the referral. Don't patronize me. You made a fool of me. I never claimed you owned the building. You assumed that. I didn't correct you, but I never lied. This whole time you've been letting me think. She stopped, breathing hard. Everyone thinks I set you up here. I've been telling people for 3 years that I helped launch your business. You did help. The introduction was valuable. That's not the same and you know it. Her voice rose. I've been making threats about your lease. I threatened you last night. Yes, I agreed. You did. She stared at me and I watched the realization settle over her. All those times she'd used the shop as leverage. All those little comments about family loyalty and remembering who helped whom. Every single one had been based on a fiction she'd created in her own mind. Why didn't you say something before? Her voice was quieter now, but there was still an accusatory edge to it. Because it didn't matter, until you used it to justify hurting my son. I didn't hurt him. I just made a seating choice. You humiliated him in front of the entire family. You implied he wasn't good enough to sit with his cousins. And then you threatened me with homelessness when I left to protect him from that environment. Jessica's jaw worked soundlessly for a moment. It was just a joke. He's too sensitive. He's 10. And it wasn't a joke. It was cruelty. Oh, and you're so perfect? Hiding this from the family for years. I didn't hide anything. I just didn't broadcast my financial portfolio at Thanksgiving dinner. But you felt entitled to wield what you thought was power over me. That says more about you than it does about me. She turned toward the door, then back to me. Mom's going to hear about this. I'm sure she will. Everyone's going to know you made a fool of me. You made a fool of yourself, Jessica. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences. After she left, I locked the door again and returned to the cherrywood desk. My hands were steady as I worked the sandpaper across the grain. No shaking, no adrenaline crash. Just the quiet satisfaction of finally drawing a boundary that should have been drawn years ago. My phone rang an hour later. My mother. Jessica says you've been lying to the family about your finances. No, Mom. Jessica made assumptions about my finances. I didn't correct them because it wasn't relevant. She's very upset. She says you humiliated her. She humiliated my son at dinner. I left quietly. She texted me a threat about my shop lease. I sent her the ownership papers. Cause and effect. There was a long pause. She says you own the building. I'm part of an investment group that owns it, yes. Another pause. Your father never mentioned you were doing well financially. Dad didn't know. I don't discuss my investments with the family. There's never seemed to be a point. Well, my mother's voice was tight. This is all very dramatic. You could have just let Marcus sit at the small table. He would have been fine. No, Mom. He wouldn't have been fine. And I'm not going to teach him that accepting disrespect is the price of family harmony. Jessica's family. You're going to ruin your relationship with her over this. Jessica ruined the relationship when she decided my son wasn't good enough for the main table. I'm just declining to pretend it didn't happen. My mother hung up without saying goodbye. The texts and calls continued throughout the day. David called to mediate. My aunt sent a long message about family forgiveness. Jessica's husband, Tom, left a voicemail suggesting we were both being unreasonable. I responded to none of them. That evening, I picked Marcus up from his after-school program. He was quiet on the drive home. Mom, are we not going to see Aunt Jessica anymore? Not for a while, probably. Because of me? Because of how she treated you? And because she tried to threaten me when I stood up for you? He was quiet for another moment. Did she really think she could kick us out of your shop? She thought she had that power, yes. But you own it? I'm one of the owners, yes. That's pretty cool. I smiled. It has its moments. Are you mad at her? No, buddy. I'm just done accepting certain behaviors. There's a difference. He nodded slowly, processing. Can we still get pizza sometimes, even when it's not because of bad family dinners? Absolutely. 3 days later, the property management company forwarded me an email. Jessica had contacted them, asking about potential lease violations and substandard business practices at my unit. Tom replied professionally that all tenants were in good standing and that any concerns about specific units should be directed to the tenant or owner. I forwarded the email to my lawyer with a brief note, asking her to document it, just in case. Jessica sent one more text 2 weeks later. You could have just told me. I finally responded. You could have just been kind to my son. She didn't reply. Christmas came and went. We spent it with friends instead of family. Marcus seemed lighter somehow, less anxious about measuring up to standards that had never made sense in the first place. My mother called on New Year's Eve. Jessica wants to apologize. Then she can call me herself. She's embarrassed. That's not my problem to solve, Mom. When did you become so hard? When I realized that being soft was teaching my son to accept mistreatment as love. She hung up again. The shop continued to thrive. The investment group bought another property in March. Marcus made the select soccer team and started talking about trying out for the debate club. And every time I unlocked the door to my shop, I felt the quiet satisfaction of knowing the space was mine. Not because someone had done me a favor, not because I owed anyone anything, but because I'd built it myself.